Before we start, let me acknowledge two things. Let me get in before the comments where people say, oh, before you buy, don't. Obviously, chances are most of you aren't going to buy this thing. With the ridiculously high $600 price tag, this thing is asking a lot. Despite that though, obviously you're a fan of video games, so we're making this so you guys can be informed. And number two, yes, this video is really late. Sorry about that. The deal with this is that I just wanted to spend a ton of time with this thing as an actual consumer, owning this thing and using this thing. Not a reviewer who gets it, plays it for a week, and then just cranks out a review about it. I didn't want to play it for 2 days and spit out a half-assed opinion. I wanted to live with this thing. So let's talk about the Oculus Rift. First off, with the packaging, you'll notice this thing is super nice. Like the whole quality, the whole experience from the packaging to the build quality. Some of you aren't going to want to hear this, but it feels like an Apple product. Everything is nicely designed. It feels good. It's expensive materials. And what I really like is that the thing comes packaged in what is essentially a suitcase, which is cool if you want to store it or carry it around. I appreciate stuff like that. Setup of the headset is crazy easy. It's very easy. You plug it in, takes a lot of USB ports, so be warned, but you plug it in, it guides you through the setup. They make it super simple, almost to the point where your grandma can set it up. And I gotta give them credit for that because that's pretty difficult to make something this complicated, that easy and consumer friendly to set up. So kudos to Oculus for that. Now the actual headset itself is made of some pretty premium materials. I really appreciate the construction, the build quality. It's actually got a bit of a soft touch to it and it's very comfortable. It's pretty light on your head considering if you've used any of the previous versions or the Vive. This thing is very comfortable. Not only that, but it does come in with built-in earphones that just go over your ear, which you can remove, but thankfully they're actually surprisingly decent headphones. I find myself using them more often than not instead of using bulkier headphones. Now I think something we do have to acknowledge is the actual screen on the inside. The quality here is good, but nothing out of this world. It's not gonna blow you away. I know that's probably not what you were imagining. You were hoping to be actually transported into another world, but there is a slight screen door effect here. You can make out some pixels, and I did notice a lot of my tech-savvy friends put the headset on them and they're immediately a little bit underwhelmed. If you've used something like the Gear VR or Google Cardboard, I hate to say it, but the visual quality is not that far off. I'm talking in terms of screen quality, not graphical quality, because obviously you have a big beefy PC backing you up this time. Oculus Home, the main game hub, is pretty nice. It's very easy, it's very consumer friendly. You're probably noticing a trend here with how I keep bringing that up. And I think it's worth mentioning that the store isn't like rife and fresh with content as much as you'd probably want, but it does get updated at a fairly frequent interval, so it's worth mentioning that there is going to be new experiences on there. Now, keyword, let me note, experience. In terms of actual games, the Rift does have some exclusives and some games that are worth playing. Lucky's Tale is 10 times better than screenshots and videos make it seem. Playing the game and seeing it come to life before your eyes actually gives you a bit of that VR magic that you're looking for. It's really pretty amazing to see this like diorama of colorful cartoon characters come to life. And I have to stress that, videos do not do this game justice. Other notables include Chronos, Edge of Nowhere, and The Climb, which is surprisingly awesome considering you're not using your hands, you're using the packed-in Xbox One controller. Despite the control detachment there, the graphics and the actual sense of being somewhere and being on a mountain is there, and it actually works. But that's the glaring omission there, controllers. Oculus has been saying that they are working on touch controllers. We've seen them in a lot of demos, but as of right now, there's no definitive release date. They seem a little far off, and you know they're gonna be so expensive. And the problem here is that this brings more fragmentation for developers making Oculus Rift games. The problem here is that not everyone is gonna go out and buy these things, meaning the developers are going to have a harder time designing a game because not every single person is going to have these special touch controllers. And honestly, the controller thing is probably one of the biggest things that hold back the Rift. It is great that they're getting them down the line, but ultimately to really get that VR experience to feel like you're in that world is to put your hands in the world. So for the Oculus Rift to not have that is a bit of an issue. But I did mention fragmentation, and in terms of that, it is nice to be able to fire up Steam VR and play some games that way, because Dirt Rally, for example, has Oculus support, and if you own it on Steam and not on Oculus Home, you could still play it. There's been some controversy here and there about how Oculus has been handing their DRM and how their software handshakes with the headset, but thankfully it seems like those things have been smoothed over and are now mostly pro-consumer. But it's definitely good to always be aware and pay attention to that stuff. You probably looked it up already, but the system requirements are steep. You need 3 USB 3.0 ports, at least a 970, a beefy i5, and 8 gigs of RAM. So you already know this statement, the Oculus Rift asks for a lot. But the biggest question here, and honestly probably the reason a lot of you guys are coming to me for this, is if you had the money, is the Oculus Rift really worth it? I'm honestly not convinced. The experiences are great. They're often way too short and sometimes a little bit half-assed, but the ones that are great are great. And that VR magic, that thing that you're looking for to be transported into another world, is mostly there. And I gotta say, it is fun sharing the experience with other people. Plopping this headset on someone who's never experienced it before is a lot of fun. Those game experiences are rolling out semi-consistently, but that's what they are, experiences. After having this thing a few months, I can count on one hand the amount of games that I actually wanted to spend more than an hour with the headset on my face. There's just not enough compelling gameplay experiences to keep me in this headset all day long, and the ones that come close still fall way, way short. So no, I can't totally recommend the Oculus Rift. You're not gonna get a ton of mileage out of it unless you're a hardcore tech first adopter VR enthusiast. Myself, I really jumped on board with the VR thing, but I'm still skeptical. Oculus Rift makes the setup, the installation, everything the way it's laid out, the store, the games, it makes it easy and consumer friendly. So because of that, it might not appeal as much to some skeptics or even some really hardcore gamers looking for a crazy awesome VR experience. While the Oculus Rift is far from perfect, it does convince me that VR is not a fluke. It is definitely not a fad. It's just a little underdeveloped. It needs some work. It's almost there, but not quite, and I am excited for the future. Also, if you are thinking about the HTC Vive, I have a ton to say about that, and we are working on videos for that and comparisons and everything like that if you are into this. But I do want to hear from you guys down in the comments what you think about the Oculus Rift and VR in general. If you had the money, if you could just go out and get this thing immediately, would you? And if you did save up and buy one of these things, are you happy with your purchase or not? As always though, I'll be down in the comments, and I'll also be on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jake Baldino if you guys want to talk about this stuff, because I think there's still a lot to be said. But you guys know the deal. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more tech reviews, maybe VR stuff, clicking the like button helps us out and lets us know you want more stuff. And if this is your first time here, subscribing is a good idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.